So if you're shopping for an affordable crossover, chances are you're considering one of the two vehicles standing behind me. We're talking the 2025 Chevy Trax, 2024 Buick Envista. In today's video, I'll tell you everything you need to know about these two vehicles and which one of these two you should buy. Before we get started, I want to extend a big thank you to Jerry Seiner Chevrolet of downtown Salt Lake City for giving me the opportunity to review this vehicle for you all today. If you guys are in the market for a new or used vehicle, make sure you reach out to them and let them know that I sent you. I'm going to put their information down in the description below. All right, to give a little introduction, the reason I think it's important to compare these two is not just because they are some of the most affordable new cars you can buy, but because these are technically siblings or cousins, however you want to specify it. The Buick Envista is based on the same platform and chassis as the Chevy Trax. So these are really reskinned versions of each other, but they also offer a little bit of a different exterior and interior styling. So it's kind of up to you to decide. We'll show off all of the cool features that come on each one of these. We'll talk about dimensions, specifications, and at the end of the video, you should have a good idea of which one of these two you'd pick. To start things off, let's talk about the exterior styling, starting off with the Buick Envista. Now, I think this is one of the coolest looking new vehicles on the road today. Buick nailed it with the design. This definitely looks a little bit more premium than you would think. I mean, the price point here is under $30,000 for both these vehicles, and yet this looks like probably a $40,000 to $45,000 vehicle, not gonna lie. And I've also had a lot of people stop me at gas stations, various places, and say, wow, that is a cool looking car. In fact, the slogan, "That's a Buick," applies very heavily to the Envista. Now, this is based on the Wildcat EV concept that they actually introduced a couple years ago. It's got the same design language they're starting to introduce on other vehicles. Coming up front, you've got LED daytime running lamps and LED headlamps as standard on all trim levels. These are automatic high beam as well. And your headlights, if you'll notice, are down in this lower section. So Chevy and GM have been kind of doing this split design for a while now. And then this one being the ST, you kind of have this cool chrome accents along with some gloss black. So your entire front grille is blacked out. You've got ST badging over there. ST stands for Sport Touring, by the way. And this is the second to highest trim level that Buick offers. You also have the new Tri-Shield design for Buick's logo. Now, coming across the side of the vehicle, the handsomeness continues. In fact, this vehicle is very coupe-like. It's almost like reminiscent of the, BMW X6 or the Mercedes GLE Coupe. Obviously, those are much more expensive premium versions, but I just mean in terms of general design, this is a coupe SUV versus a traditional crossover. In case you're wondering about the length here, it's about 182.6 inches long. You're about 61.2 inches tall, and you've got about 7.6 inches of ground clearance. Now, this one being the Sport Touring trim, you got these 19-inch gloss black wheels, and these are Continental Pro Contact. Now, in case you're wondering about the dimensions here, these are 245 millimeter wide, and then they're outlined in this gloss black plastic over here. And the black accents match really good with this exterior color, which is called Moonstone Gray. You've also got heated side view mirrors, more gloss black, and then gloss black outlines the entire window surround. And then also you got a little side skirt back there as well. And your C-pillar is kind of like this floating black plastic design. I also like this little texture they added back here, just adds a little bit more premiumness to the exterior design. Coming across the rear end, I do like you have LED running lights for your taillights, but your taillights themselves are down here. They're just incandescent light bulbs. So this is more of just an accent piece, kind of a cool looking running light. As you can see here, it kind of slopes down into a coupe design. You've got your Buick badging over here because you're proud that you're driving a Buick. And then down here, you got some more gloss black plastic with some fake aluminum. This is just plastic, but it makes it look like it's actual aluminum. But overall, the design is really nice. Now, jumping over to the Trax, this is the LT trim level. This is actually a little bit of a step down in terms of the hierarchy of Chevy Trax. This is kind of middle of the road, where this is a little bit higher. However, I wasn't able to find a 2RS trim level, which would be the closest competitor, but this is pretty close. It's just a little bit more affordable, and it gives you a good idea of the differences. Now, starting off with the exterior design of the Trax, I do want to mention that they get LED daytime running lamps and LED headlights as standard, of course, with automatic high beams. Now, the LT trim level comes with more premium LED daytime running lights, but I'm not quite sure exactly what that means because I haven't seen the lower trim levels to really tell the difference. Now, you still got that split headlight, daytime running lamp design, and then it's kind of separated by this giant chrome piece. And I think the Chevy Trax is also a really handsome looking vehicle. Now, this doesn't look maybe as premium as the Envista. This kind of looks more like a concept car. This looks more just like a traditional good looking crossover. But coming across the side of the vehicle, this is a more traditional crossover style. So as you can see, you've got kind of your more boxier shape, although not as boxy as the Trailblazer, but still definitely more traditional than the Invista, which means you're likely going to have a little bit more space on the inside. However, we'll talk more on that later. Now, jumping over to the wheels, these are 17-inch wheels, although you can get 19s on the 2RS. And then in terms of the dimensions here, it's a little bit smaller at 225 millimeter wide. Now, you do have body painted mirror caps. They're also heated functionality as well. And then you've got a little roof rack up at the top. Now, in regards to the overall length of the Trax, is about 178.6 inches long, which is just a couple inches shorter than the Invista. You've got 61.7 inches of height, so it's just barely taller than the Invista, despite having a more crossover shape. And then ground clearance is also a little bit worse than the Invista at 7.3 inches. And then coming across the rear end of the vehicle, you don't have any type of LED lighting. These are just incandescent, but the shape of the taillight is pretty cool. And again, more of that traditional crossover shape with a slanted rear windshield, but you have a functional windshield wiper over here. And then down at the bottom, you kind of have, again, that plastic that's meant to resemble aluminum, but also a pretty decent shape. So in terms of exterior styling, I think the Invista takes the cake. This just looks much more of a premium vehicle as compared to this, which is also a good looking car, but it looks about its price point. Next up, let's talk about powertrain. Now, if you guys remember at the beginning of the video, I said both these vehicles are siblings because they share the same platform. Well, that's also true about their powertrains. They're identical. It's a 1.2 liter turbocharged 3-cylinder engine that produces 137 horsepower and 162 pound-feet of torque. Now, all of that power on both of these vehicles is sent through a 6-speed conventional torque converter automatic. Thank you, Chevy, for not throwing in a CVT. There's no CVT option here, and I think it's because Chevy's listening to its customers, or at least its auto enthusiasts. CVTs just aren't the best driving experience. Now, in terms of fuel economy, it's pretty good here. We're talking 28 in the city, 32 on the highway for a combined 30. The one downside with both these crossovers is they only come with front-wheel drive. If you want to get all-wheel drive, you have to step up to the more expensive siblings of both the Trax and the Invista. That would be the Encore and the Trailblazer. Now, I do want to touch on performance. Based on those specs, it doesn't sound like a very powerful engine, especially given the fact it's a 3-cylinder. But I do encourage, if you're in the market for an affordable crossover, take a test drive of one of these two cars. It's actually surprisingly quicker than the numbers show. This vehicle isn't very heavy, and because of that, with that turbocharged engine, it's actually quite peppy. I mean, it's definitely no sport car. It's not a sport touring like the name leads you to believe, but it's plenty quick. I'd say it's quicker than most 2-liter naturally aspirated vehicles I've driven before. Now is a good time to pause the video and hit that subscribe button so you guys can stay up to date on all of the weekly car videos. That helps me out a lot to bring more cool content like this onto the channel. All right, let's get back to the comparison. Next up, let's jump inside the Invista and show you some of the cool features of this budget-friendly crossover. Now, first I want to show you the Buick Key. It's been updated over the years, so you have your lock button in the middle with the logo, unlock over here, your power trunk release. You do get remote start with your alarm down here, and then it's kind of outlined in this chrome. It's a pretty nice key overall, especially for a vehicle of this price point. Now, jumping inside the Invista, it really surprises me how nice this interior is considering the price. This is pretty much everything a new car buyer is looking for without any of the excess. Now, first off, you'll notice a lot of blue accents on the door panel, on the seats, and that's because the blue outline is kind of a hallmark of the ST trim level. So if you pick any other trim level, it's not going to look quite like this, but I like it. I think it adds a lot of personality to what is otherwise a pretty black plastic interior. But first off, starting off the door panel, this is hard touch plastic. You kind of expect that, but over here where you're resting your elbow is kind of a more, I don't know, like rubberized plastic material. It's kind of a weird texture. It's probably going to wear pretty good over time, but it's not the softest material. But I do like the blue stitching over here. You got kind of like this fake carbon fiber look, but this is mostly just a piece of plastic that is meant to resemble something a little bit more premium, but I don't mind it. At least they're trying to innovate here with more cheaper materials. So you've got your door handle, you got lock and unlock, automatic window switches, little grab handle section over here, and a pretty decent sized storage compartment with a cup holder. And then this is a button to regulate the height of your power lift gate. So that is an optional feature on the particular vehicle I'm reviewing today. You also got a 6-speaker audio system, and it sounds pretty good for a vehicle of this size. Now, turning in towards the seats, these are faux leather wrapped, and I like the design. You got ST up here at the top, more of that blue stitching with the blue piping. Now, this is the optional 8-way power seats with optional heated functionality. The base version comes with 6-way manual seats. So if you choose something below the ST, it's not going to be as premium as here. You do have 2-way lumbar support. And I got to say, these seats are really comfortable to sit in. So there's not that much thigh support because this is a compact crossover, but they're comfortable for long road trips. Now, let's jump inside the Invista, and this is what really impresses me about this vehicle. So turning this vehicle on, you do have push to start. It's a very quiet engine overall. But let's talk about what's going on here. So first off, you've got this large 19-inch panel, as Chevy describes it, but it's separated into 2 screens. You've got an 8-inch instrument gauge cluster display, and this is very similar to other Chevy products I've reviewed. There's really not much functionality here. I mean, you can cycle through a couple buttons over here, but for the most part, it's kind of a static screen, but at least it's all digital, makes it look a little bit more modern. Talking about this steering wheel, it is flat bottom design, and it's leather wrapped, so it feels really good in the hands. You got that updated Buick logo. On the left-hand side are your controls for your optional adaptive cruise control system that this vehicle comes with, and the optional heated steering wheel. On the right-hand side are your buttons to control your audio settings along with your phone and voice activation. And then behind the steering wheel, you got buttons to control your seek and track settings and your volume buttons as well. Now, to the left of the steering wheel is your turn signal stalk and your automatic high beam cancellation. It's nice that they've included your headlight controls inside of physical buttons instead of on the screen like they've done in other Chevy products. Over here is your windshield wiper stalk, where you've got automatic rain sensing windshield wipers. Now, to the left of the steering wheel is more headlight controls along with your brightness indicator. And then all of this is kind of wrapped in this same material that you found on the door panel. It's kind of like this softer touch plastic material. You've got some faux stitching over there on the passenger side as well. And then you've kind of got this cool chrome bar that's almost meant to resemble a bar that goes all the way behind the screen and then onto the driver's side. Now, talking about what's going on here, this is an 11-inch infotainment screen, and it's really cool looking. I mean, it's nothing fancy. There's nothing here that's really like an amazing feature, but the fact is, for a base entry-level crossover to have this type of software is really welcome. I mean, this is some of the best in its class. You've got audio controls here with wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto. You've got your traction control information over here, some vehicle status report. You've got your home button where you can activate your CarPlay and Android Auto and go through your settings. And then what I like here is Buick has added its own touch to it. So you kind of have this cool little design in the background that looks different than other Chevy products. You've also got a physical volume knob. And then moving down below that, you got 2 air vent controls outlined in this kind of fake chrome material. And then single zone climate control, but it is a digital readout. And of course, you can adjust where the fan speed is going. You got your hazard button down here. And then my particular vehicle comes with a wireless charging pad. And then it's also got these 2 USB ports and a cigarette style power outlet. And I love this wireless charging pad because your phone actually stays in place. There's too many cars I review where it just bounces around. You got your lane departure warning off button, and then your engine start stop button as well. You've got a nice looking gear selector that feels pretty sturdy, 2 cup holders, a little bit of piano black plastic here, so you may love that or hate it. But you've got an electronic parking brake, a little storage compartment over here, and then a faux leather kind of rubberized center arm console that's a little bit on the harder side, but it's not too bad, and it's pretty deep considering this is a pretty small crossover. You've also got your glove compartment over here, and then up above you, nothing fancy here, just your rear view mirror. And then this is your button to open up your sunroof. So my particular vehicle comes with the optional moonroof feature, and it's a pretty small sunroof overall, but at least is nice to brighten up this interior. Now, jumping into the second row of the Invista, same hard touch plastics on the door panel, but over here, at least you still have a little bit of soft touch material. There's an extension of your speaker system, your automatic window controls, and then talking about the seats over here, they're just as nice as the first row, just not as much design to them. There's no ST, and there's very minimal blue stitching. There's no blue piping either, but they're still nice and soft. And then sitting back here, you got plenty of legroom. What I love about this Trax platform is there's plenty of space back here. We're talking 38.7 inches of space behind the first row. You could probably easily fit 3 people back here because there's no center hump since there's no transmission tunnel. There's no all-wheel drive, so you don't need to worry about that. So it's a flat floor down here. You got a pretty big storage compartment, 2 USB ports, no air vents, but that's to be expected for a compact crossover. And then the other thing that's missing here is a center arm console for the second row. But again, that's to be expected for compact crossovers. And then despite this being a coupe-like shape, I have about 2 to 3 inches of space above me. So it's pretty decent size. I'm about 5'9", so even if you're 6 feet, you can probably fit back here. And it's a pretty big cabin overall, considering this is a compact crossover. All right, now jumping into the back, you can see what those LED taillights look like. Pushing the automatic trunk release button. This is, again, that more coupe-like design, and it's got its pros and cons. So you've got this little tonneau cover to cover up your valuables over here. Buick says you have about 20.7 cubic feet of space behind the second row. If you fold down that second row, which folds down 60-40 split, you can get upwards of 42 cubic feet of space behind the first row. And then Buick is really proud to say that if you fold down these second row seats on the passenger side, you could fit an object about 7.5 feet long diagonally inside of the trunk. So if you're carrying lots of stuff, they've kind of designed it for that. Underneath here, you've just got a little compact spare tire and then another little storage compartment over here on the left-hand side, but not too much more to talk about in the trunk. Next up, let's jump inside the Trax. Now, first off, showing you the key here. This is the same Chevy key they've been using for the last few years. You got your unlock, your lock, your remote start, and your panic button. You don't have any type of electronic trunk release like you do in the Invista, but it's also outlined in kind of like this fake chrome, and it's a pretty nice key overall. You got your Chevy logo in the back. Now, jumping inside the Trax, also a pretty nice looking interior, although maybe not as nice as the Invista, because keep in mind, again, this is the LT trim level, so it's technically one step down from the ST I'm reviewing over there, but still very welcoming interior. So starting off with the door panel, this is of course hard touch plastic here, similar to the Invista. However, I do like this faux leather with a little bit of blue stitching. And then this is more of a hard touch rubberized material. I kind of wish they made this a little bit softer. This has always been my complaint on the Trax, but I kind of wish they just used this material over here instead. But either way, door panel is not just a sea of black plastic. You got automatic door locks, window switches, window controls, mirror controls, and then down here a little storage compartment, a little bit of gloss black trim piece over here that actually has a little bit of a texture to it. So they've added some textures to make cheap plastic look a little bit more premium. You got a little cup holder slot, and then this one also has the 6-speaker audio system on the LT trim level. Now jumping over to these seats, these aren't the faux leather that you found in the ST, but they're not bad. You still have kind of a leather wrapped headrest. Of course, it's fake leather. And then the rest of this is wrapped in this kind of premium cloth material. It's got a little bit of texture to it. Now, this vehicle I'm reviewing today does not have power operated seats or lumbar support, but that is an optional feature. However, it does come with heated seats like the Invista. But jumping inside the Trax, a pretty familiar design when it comes to the screens. But let's turn this vehicle on. Similar push to start button over there in the center. And then talking about the steering wheel real quick, this one is also heated functionality, but it is not a flat bottom design. This one does have adaptive cruise control as part of the driver confidence package. And then these are the buttons how you would control that along with your gap adjustment. And then on the right hand side, similar to the Invista, this is how you control your audio and some of the functionality on this screen. Well, lo and behold, this is almost an identical screen as that in the Invista, aside from the software looking a little bit different. It's an 8-inch display. And again, not too much functionality here, but at least it looks pretty modern. Now, to the left of the steering wheel, similar to the Invista, you got your stock for your automatic high beams and your turn signals. And then on the right-hand side is your windshield wiper stock. Now, this one does not appear to have automatic rain-sensing windshield wipers, if that's important to you. To the left-hand side is your headlight controls and your brightness for your gauge cluster. And then I do like the design here. You've got some blue accents. You've also got some chrome around here, and then look at this textured material. Just makes the interior pop a little bit. Now this up here is also kind of a rubberized material. It's not very soft touch. It's actually kind of on the harder side, but at least it's not a sea of black plastic. It has some sort of texture to it, makes it feel a little bit more premium. Same with this little trim piece over here. It kind of turns into a design over on the passenger side, and then it kind of molds into just a smooth shape. You've got more blue accents, the same ones that you'd find on the door panel. So just overall, the interior has some fun to it. It's not just a boring interior. So it's still really nice. I just think the Invista is a little bit nicer when it pertains to this screen. So instead of having one giant panel, it's kind of separated into this little section over here. So you obviously have the same screen size, 8 inches, but it just doesn't seem as impressive. This is also the same 11-inch touchscreen display, but as you can see here, software looks a little bit different. It looks a little bit more premium, in my opinion, in the Invista. Same functionality here, wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto. You got your home menu here where you can adjust different settings, but it's a really nice UI. And then you've got your physical volume knob over here, air vent controls just like the Invista. And then down here, again, single zone climate control, but you have a digital readout. You got 2 USB ports, a cigarette style power outlet. No wireless charging pad on this one. It's actually replaced with just a storage compartment, but you can get that on the higher trims. And then you've got your lane departure warning on off switch as well, along with your engine start stop button on the left hand side. Your gear selector looks very similar to that in the Invista, electronic parking brake. This is almost lifted straight out of the Invista. 2 cup holders with a little bit of piano black plastic, a little storage compartment back here. And then this is a little bit on the rougher side as compared to the Invista, but it is still kind of that same material you found on the door panel. Opening this up, also a pretty decent deep storage compartment. And then on the passenger side, you've got, of course, your glove compartment. Up above you, no rear view camera mirror, but you do have tint functionality. And then this one does not come with the sunroof, but that is optional on the Trax. Jumping into the second row of the Trax, no surprise, hard touch plastic up here, and even this is hard touch plastic. So the Invista was a little bit nicer for the second row occupants. Still have obviously automatic window controls and your 6-speaker audio system, along with a little storage compartment. And then talking about these seats, same kind of style as you found in the first row. You've got a little bit of faux leather up here. In fact, you got more faux leather on this than in the first row, surprisingly. And then same kind of cloth-like material back here. Now, in terms of legroom, surprise, surprise, it's identical to the Invista. 38.7 inches of space back here. And again, I just love it. Plenty of space in the Trax. This is like one of the biggest compact crossovers I've ever reviewed. Another set of USB ports down here with your storage compartment. I mean, this second row is lifted almost entirely out of the Invista. Flat floor over here because there's no transmission tunnel, and of course there's no center arm console either. In terms of headroom back here, it's almost identical to the Invista despite being more of kind of a traditional crossover shape. I got about 2 or 3 inches above me. And there's a look at what the taillights look like at night. Again, you still have incandescents, there's no LEDs. And then opening up this trunk, it's not power operated, but it's a pretty decent size. In fact, because this is more of a traditional crossover, it has more cargo volume than the Invista. Now, jumping back here, you still have that same type of tonneau cover you found on the Invista. You have 60/40 folding flat seats for the second row. And then in terms of the cargo volume back here, Chevy says you've got 25.6 cubic feet of space behind the second row, and you've got 54.1 cubic feet of space if you fold down that second row. Other than that, the interior is almost identical. You got a little storage compartment over here on the left, and then underneath here, a compact spare tire. Next up, let's address safety features, and again, they're almost identical. Starting off with the Buick, you have what Buick calls the Buick Driver Confidence set of safety features on all vehicles. It's automatic emergency braking, you've got forward collision alert, you've also got a distance indicator, lane keep assist, and lane departure warning. In addition, you've got those automatic high beams that I talked about earlier. Now, if you want blind spot monitoring and adaptive cruise control, those are both optional features. Jumping over to the Trax, a very similar story. They call it Chevy Safety Assist with automatic emergency braking. You got front pedestrian detection, lane keep assist, and lane departure warning, and you've got the automatic high beams. Now, if you want blind spot monitoring and adaptive cruise control, that comes as part of the driver confidence package that this particular vehicle I'm reviewing today comes with. Now, in terms of warranty, these are both identical. You get 3-year, 36,000 mile bumper to bumper warranty and a 5-year, 60,000 mile powertrain warranty. All right, next up, let's compare the pricing. This is the big shocker for both these vehicles because they start well under $30,000. Starting off with the Invista, the entry-level trim is the preferred trim, and it starts at $22,400. So you still get that same exterior styling for $22,000. And that's before destination, of course. Now, the ST trim level that I'm reviewing today starts around $24,100, and then the highest trim level, the Avenir, is about $28,600. Now, to be fully transparent, I'm going to show you the MSRP of the vehicle I'm reviewing today, and after destination, it's $29,070, and that's because this vehicle comes with the convenience package, which includes the heated steering wheel, the heated seats, the wireless charging pads. You've also got the Buick Experience package, which is the blacked out 19-inch wheels. You got the adaptive cruise control package, and then finally you've got that power lift gate, which includes some other stuff as well. But after destination, this thing is less than $30,000. What a steal. Now, jumping over to the Trax, this actually starts even lower than the entry-level trim of the Invista. It starts with the LS at an MSRP of $20,400 before destination. Now, like I said, the LT is kind of the middle of the road, maybe a little bit on the higher end, but the starting price of the LT is $22,500, and the top of the line, which is either the 2RS or the Active, which they both cost the same, is starting at $24,300. Now, this particular vehicle I'm reviewing today has like a blackout package, it has the adaptive cruise control package, the heated seat package. So this one goes all the way up from $22,500 to a starting price of $25,260 after destination. So the difference between these two vehicles is just about $4,000. All right, folks, so what is the verdict? Which one of these two should you buy? Well, My answer is the Invista, and that's just because this thing looks like it punches way above its weight. Nobody's gonna guess that this is a $30,000 vehicle. In fact, I had some of my friends and family test it. I think only one person guessed it correctly. So that just goes to show how well Buick has designed this thing. Also, there's probably gonna be less of these on the road than the Trax because I just don't think Buick has as much brand attention as a Chevy. That being said, if you're really budget conscious, which I understand because things are expensive nowadays, this thing is a whole hell of a lot of car for the money. At around $25,000, you still get wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, the heated seats, adaptive cruise control. I mean, I've reviewed cars triple the price of this vehicle and they don't even come with adaptive cruise control. So it's truly impressive what Chevy's been able to pack inside of the Trax for well under $30,000. But what are your thoughts between these two vehicles? Would you take the slightly more expensive Buick Envista, or would you save a little bit of money in your pocket and choose the Chevy Trax? Let me know down in the comments below. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for all of the weekly car videos. Also check me out on all the social media at SchwayZ_. Until next time, everybody, I hope you stay SchwayZ, stay healthy, have a wonderful day.